gentle with myself. I will be gentle with myself. And I will hold myself like a newborn baby child. I will be gentle with myself. I will be gentle with myself. And I will hold myself like a newborn baby child. I will be tender with
Hi everyone, it's great to be with you again. I just wanted to share that little bit of music. It was Karen Drucker singing Gentle with Myself. I just felt called to include that with the presentation today on body awareness. So today I will be sharing some information about body awareness and how to use it, ways to practice it, and something called stacking. So in the previous presentation, I introduced this idea of the inner trainer aspect, which is the aspect of ourselves that helps us to train in something, to learn something new, to do something new, to achieve something. And this inner trainer, with regards to the body, can help us to support us to release stuck states and to help us to be able to shift states more easily. So I'd like to share a bit of a story about how I met one of my teachers who helped me to learn about body awareness. So once upon a time in 2013, at age 38, my dad died, and my dad was 73 years old when he passed away, and I traveled with my husband at the time from Virginia to Illinois to bury my dad with my family. And my dad lived to be a ripe old age, but my mom died young. She died when I was 13 years old, and so when my dad died, it was a significant milestone of both parents having passed. And being back in Illinois, I was there. I saw my brother James's headstone. He also died 2 years after my mom, when I was actually 15 or 16 years old at the time. And in Virginia, later that year, I lost my little cat, Tober. So the year 2013, I had a lot of transitions, a lot of deaths. And that year also was a pretty significant year with regards to my relationship with my now ex-husband. Our separation was in the works, but it was getting closer and closer to a formal separation. And we had a transition before officially separating. And this is me in Virginia. We moved to Bethany, Oregon, which is a suburb of Portland. And I was just not sure what to do. I was in this transition period. I had previously been in software, and my husband was also in a transition. He had been deployed with the Army and was wanting to do something new in his life or different, and so ended up in Oregon, and he was doing a schooling program, and I decided I was going to do some schooling too. I went to New Mexico to study how to build earthships later in the year. And so I went from this life situation with a relationship starting to come to an end, also experiencing depression, anxiety, had ended my career as software developer due to all the stress and just not being able to take it anymore. And so here I found myself in 2013 doing something new. I was hip to the fact that I needed to make some changes in my life. So I was studying nutrition, I'd started meditating, start this new learning path. And I find myself in a pretty eclectic group of international students learning how to build some pretty interesting off-grid homes. And it was fun. So I kept doing it. In 2013, I started this project. 2014, I moved to Arizona and lived in a teepee and started this project in Arizona, later finished it. Started this project in Canada, later finished it. Started this one in Arizona, later finished it. And so I expended a lot of energy. I learned a lot. I met a lot of people, and it was quite the adventure. And along the way, I separated from my husband, and I also eventually connected with a lover and ended up moving back to Oregon, but to a different city, to Eugene. And I kept learning new things, this kind of goal of like, I want to learn how to meet my basic needs. In a way, I was like, I knew I needed to do something different because the depression and the anxiety was something I was trying to solve. So I learned how to garden in Oregon, in Eugene. For the first time, I learned how to milk goats and cows and keep chickens. I worked at an organic orchard. So I was learning all these things. I met Erica and continued my building experience in natural plaster. And here I'm in Portland working on a little project there. So I was just busy. This is in 2016, and I had all these adventures. I even train hopped. This is taken from a freight train in eastern Oregon along the Deschutes River. And even though I was having so many new experiences, which you look at this, you're like, wow, this is so amazing that this person was doing this, that I did all of these things. And it was amazing that I was doing all these things and taking on all this new learning, but it was also very stressful. And when my relationship started to end with my lover, and I found myself in a city that I was very new to, very unfamiliar with, not really knowing people well there, and then losing that connection, I was pretty much, I felt very alone. And I ended up, through the connection that I had there, I ended up living at a barn. I lived at a barn. I was pretty much out of cash at this point and on my own for the first time in my life. I'd been up until this point, or up until age 38, I'd been in a family system my whole life. I went from my family of birth to my marriage. And so now I'm alone for the first time, without money, and winter's coming. I'm living in a barn. I wasn't really, I just like, I was in this panic attack is what happened. I was in a panic attack. I had no idea what I was going to do. So in this panic attack, I was puzzling about what to do about it. How can I fix it? And I was puzzling about food. I was noticing all these food cravings, and I would just really want to eat grapes all the time. And so I was doing these experiments and somehow just trying to fix it. I wanted it to go away. And one day, a teacher came. Willow showed up. And Willow showed up and had been really curious about one of the things that I'd been doing out there at the barn where I had no electricity. I would dry fruit and I would dry meat. And so naturally, Willow was very curious about the meat. And this day, when she came around, she's just a sweet, mellow dog. I was curious about her and like what she would do if I let her eat the meat. I wondered, how would she know to stop eating? And because I was experiencing these food cravings, and I was like, I wondered, is this normal? And So I decided I was going to do an experiment with Willow, and I was going to just basically offer her meat one piece at a time and see what happened. See what happened. So I offered her a piece of meat, and Willow smelled the piece of meat and ate it. And when she did this, I noticed the quality of how fixated she was on the meat that I was offering her. It's like every bit, every ounce of her focus, her attention was on the meat. I offered her the next piece. She smelled it and she ate it. I offered her another. She smelled it, she ate it. I started wondering, am I going to have enough meat? So I kept doing this. I would offer her, she smelled it every time, and her focus was unrelenting on this meat. Well, at one point, as I offer her the meat and she's smelling it, I noticed something changed. Her ear moved, and her focus, just ever so slightly, seemed to go off into the surrounding. A little bit of what was so converged so intently on that meat started to become a little bit more divergent. She still smelled the meat and still ate it. And I continued to offer her, and she continued to smell and eat. But at some point, her awareness became a little bit more diffuse, And then when I offered a piece of meat at one point, she smelled it and she did not eat it. Instead, she turned her head and she trotted off to go do whatever it is she wanted to do. And I just thought that was such an amazing experience and felt so inspired by her awareness. I just took this as a teaching to notice how she was able, how her body, or she was able to focus so intensely on that piece of meat and smell and somehow connect with it, and to know whether or not it was time to eat or whether it was time to go. And so she inspired me to practice my skill of awareness, to somehow to connect with what's inside of me that's innate, that would allow me to know what was good for my body. So I wanted to practice my skill of awareness. I was inspired by her. So I wanted to practice acknowledging what is. And awareness also, I now consider it to be this ability or skill to imagine what is. And we'll get into that a little bit more after a bit. So what is awareness with regard to the body? It's having awareness of light, sound, touch, pressure, temperature, movement, smell, and experiences that appear to be external to the body, and then also internal body sensations. And awareness has a particular quality to it, or a particular mindset, which sometimes I might refer to it as being a baby alien. It's a very objective, impartial way of just looking at what is, kind of bringing a sense of curiosity and asking what and taking it in and setting aside any judgments or evaluations that you might have about what it is that you're observing, and setting aside questions like, why is something? We just want to look at what. So how do we use awareness? Well, awareness is a beautiful skill that the inner trainer has, and with this practiced objective skill of awareness, the inner trainer might ask, well, what is? And then, well, what does the body seem to need or desire? And then, noticing that, the awareness, the inner trainer's awareness, may be able to develop some sort of a strategy or notice a practice that might help the body to meet its need or to achieve whatever the desire is. And then, leveraging the skill of awareness when trying a strategy, the inner trainer can check for feedback and basically just learn from what it tried. So what I'm talking about here is a process of learning to meet the body's needs. It starts with awareness at the top, noticing what is, assessing, need or desire, choosing a goal, trying a strategy, noticing what happens, that's noticing the feedback, and then learning, and then just this cycle just repeats, iterates over and over again. So the benefits of practicing and honing the skill of awareness is that the inner trainer over time gets better at making guesses about what might be supportive for the body. So this is part of what I'm talking about with the inner trainer. Not only notices what is, but what might be. That's this imagination quality of awareness. And the inner trainer can match the body with practices for whatever it's wanting, the body is needing or wanting to learn. And we've been talking about trauma, and a way that we can support trauma with our inner trainer is to notice the feedback that we're getting from the practices and to pace practices compassionately. And as our awareness grows, this internal sense of self-trust grows as well, as does confidence. And with these qualities becoming increased in our being, it has the effect of reducing stress. And reducing stress, as we saw from the previous lecture, has the effect of reducing the ratcheting up of the sympathetic nervous system activation as all those cumulative stresses in our lives pile up. So reducing any stress in our lives is going to it's going to have a positive benefit in our lives. So how can we practice increasing the skill of awareness? We can practice it by observing our bodies, observing other bodies, observing what our birthright, observing our memory and intuition, and we can practice by observing through triangulation. So observing your body as a practice, there's so many things that you can do to observe your body. I've listed a lot of them in the slides, but it just mostly involves noticing what you notice. You could notice muscle tension, muscle relaxation. You could notice headaches. You can try lots of different things with your body and just notice what happens. So you can explore by touching your body or moving it through the range of motion. You might get curious about your personality and kind of look up for what is the interaction between the personality and the body. That might be something curious to observe. You can just notice what is going on with individual senses, and you can really just slow things down as you observe things. I'm just encouraging you to try this through the week as a homework practice, to observe your body. And so with your senses, your vision, your hearing, your feeling sensations, you can track what you notice in the environment, either internally or externally. And then when you slow things down, you might start to notice what you're not normally noticing. And that can be interesting. It can be something interesting to note. You can try practicing your awareness with your eyes open or with your eyes closed. So just give it a try. Notice what you notice. As you slow down, you can notice body processes. What happens when you poop, when you pee, when you eat? How do you respond to temperatures, your sleep, your breathing? All these processes you can notice. And you can notice how you relate to different people or what goes on in your body. As you approach different people, what feels too close? You can notice things that happen in your body like smiles. When does your body just smile on its own? When is there some sort of process where your personality or the part that is the eye process, the eye phenomena, the one that's smiling? Just to notice. So another way you can practice increasing your awareness is to just practice by observing other bodies. Bring in this impartial, non-judgmental quality as you just observe other people or other animals. And you can observe your birthright. because we've all gone through social conditioning, it can be really interesting to observe animals or infants, young children who haven't been through the process of conditioning. And through noticing this, we can kind of just kind of imagine or come up with maybe a model of what would have been our birthright for our body. And another way that we can actually kind of observe our birthright is how I'm going to frame this, is that we can go into our memory or via our intuition, and we can make observations that might inform what our birthright is. So you could look back and remember as a child certain activities that you really liked. And you can just get curious and try to, through those memories, remember what you felt, notice what you were feeling or what it is your body was trying to experience. And this can give you maybe give you some clues about what might be natural for your body or part of your birthright as I'm describing it. So for me, for example, one thing that I like to do is I like to go into the bathroom and I like to turn on the fan, and I would use the hair dryer to just blow my body with the hair dryer. I used to love drying my legs, and I would get punished for this if I was caught doing it, and maybe rightly so. But then I wondered, like, well, what was that little child, Becca, who hadn't really been conditioned to be concerned about the potential hazards of using an electrical device in the bathroom. So, like, what was that little child doing? And kind of imagining into what was going on, maybe that little child might have literally been trying to just warm up to actually thaw a frozen freeze response. You know, having been through the traumatic surgeries that I experienced, maybe my muscles just really wanted to be warm and relaxed. So like literally applying heat to thaw out the response. Maybe that's what's happening. But I could so observing your memory and intuition of your childhood, or maybe even thinking about some experience of noticing another person's body that surprised you, that can be something that you can look at and explore with this just perspective of noticing with curiosity. There may be some information in there that can help you to give you a clue about what might be natural for your body. Just try that as a little experiment for practicing your awareness. Another way that we can practice awareness is to triangulate. And since awareness is a skill, it kind of implies that it's something that's growing. And if it's growing, that means that it's kind of incomplete in some way. So we can triangulate basically by collecting data points from other sources to add to our awareness and help us to train what are we not noticing. And we have blind spots. So that's going to help us fill in those gaps, and it's also going to help us when we collect other data points to help us to calibrate. Hey, it's like, is what I'm noticing or what I have awareness of, is that what you're also aware of? Is that what you're also aware of? And we're kind of bouncing off of a laboratory test or a device that's taking a measurement or other people. We can compare to try to gain something that might be a little bit more objective. Okay, so now the inner trainer is doing this practice of awareness and trying to get better at this skill so that it can make choices about what practices and strategies are going to help support the body. It's like what we're trying to learn, how to do this better and better. And so the practices that we do, we can experiment with stacking. So practices, a lot of times we may just practice something in a formal setting time where we're just really focusing on doing a particular practice to learn the skill. Maybe like we'll just want to try to calm our calm our autonomic nervous system by doing some vagus nerve reset exercises in a pretty controlled environment. And that's great. That's a great thing to practice to do. But what we really want to do is we want to be starting to be able to access these skills and these practices, bringing them into our everyday life so that we have access to what it is we're learning at any time throughout our days. So the sooner that we start stacking our practices into our everyday life, the sooner we can learn how to benefit from those practices and those skills in our daily lives. And that will just be great. So what happens over time too, as we stack practices into our daily lives, is that eventually our daily life actually becomes our practice. So we're just basically, our inner trainer gets better and better at being aware of what it is that we're practicing and keeping us on track all the time. And what is our practice, or what can be our practice? I just am suggesting that the little teacher of Willow suggested to me that discovering what's natural for my body's birthright, is what I want to be practicing and wanting to learn to become more and more aware of. And I want to be bringing this quality of not knowing what that is, dropping some conventional conditioning about what that is, coming at it with this, with this openness of noticing what is, and then seeing what wisdom pops in from that more open space. I just want to share this quick little story. If you were to imagine that someone sets a little plant outside your door, and you open it up and you're like, whoa, what is this plant? Where did it come from? I've never seen a little plant like this before. And if you imagine that you're just so curious about this little plant because it's so weird, and you ask all your neighbors, did you put this plant here? And they say no. And you just decide that you're curious about it and you want to learn how to take care of it. You go on Google, you can't find any pictures of this plant. You have no idea what it is. So what you can do, the only thing you know how to do, is to observe it. Observe the plant and see what happens if you give it water or if you don't give it water. If you give it sunlight, if you don't. And you just, over time, with the taking in, using your awareness, trying something with the plant and following the feedback, over time you'll learn how to keep this plant healthy. And one day, maybe this plant produces this amazing fruit that when you taste it, you're just like blown away by this new experience that you've never had, and it's just so succulent and delicious. So just want to encourage us to practice our body awareness so that we can learn how to take care of the mystery that is our body. So just going to encourage you over this week with the homework to just be thinking about this idea of your inner trainer aspect and how you can grow the skill of body awareness through just practicing using your awareness to observe your body, and then to observe role models for what might be your birthright, and start to make guesses about what your body needs or desires. Try things out, experiment, follow feedback, and learn. And over time, as you keep practicing this, growing your skill of your awareness, you will become the penultimate expert in loving and caring for your mysterious and amazing body as if it's a newborn baby child. Okay, that is the presentation on body awareness, and I just want to encourage you to to just follow what feels natural for you to be practicing, noticing your body in your daily life, and to do it with this attitude of non-judgment, curiosity, just taking in what is. And encourage you to take a look at the homework to see if there are any suggestions that are interesting to you. Keep some notes, notice what you notice, and I'm really curious to have a conversation next time around and see what we all discovered together. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful week. Take care.